Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Dream, and you are here for an episode of Psychedelics as Medicine under the umbrella of the It's All Good show. My guest today has been a friend ever since we first met. We think it's around 2016. He's been a huge supporter of Stephanie and myself and the Tour of Love. And in the last 9 years, it's been really great to watch his expansion as we're all, expanding, those of us that are choosing it. And so, as you all know, every so often I'll put a call out for interviewees for my different podcasts, and Harold stepped up. But before we jump into all that, let me go ahead and read his bio to you. Harold Hoenow is the founder, strategic architect, and mythic storyteller behind Infinite You and Embody Now. Known as Cosmic Herald, but Herald spelled like Herald, Harold weaves lived experience, spiritual philosophy, and systems thinking into movements designed to activate a collective awakening. His work blends ritual, system creations, and community building to help people embody their highest potential while creating real-world impact. Harold's mission is simple and profound: to guide individuals and organizations into harmonic resonance so they can serve the planet with clarity, purpose, and heart. That's really very nice, and it's very special, and it just... I already have a warm fuzzy about you, Harold, but it just got a little warmer and a little fuzzier. Welcome to Psychedelics as Medicine and the It's All Good show. I'm thrilled to have you with me today.
Oh man, I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you so much for, continuing your work, and through the times that we've known each other, it's now shifted, and that was our whole initial, interaction was your tour of love and coming through with these amazing sound bowls and this experience. And I'm in deep gratitude for what you and Stephanie have culminated with that, and what you did for my city of San Antonio as you came through on the tour of love.
Wow, that's so awesome. Keep going. No.
Shower me, please.
That was really good. Did you have to stop right there? Seemed like that was the short version. No. So it's been fun to introduce the Psychedelics as Medicine and DMT Chronicles podcasts, because while people probably had a good idea that my life involved psychedelics as medicine, it was never really put out there publicly, and now the tide has changed, and I have no concerns about being very transparent around it all. So you and I have not known each other in the realm of psychedelics as medicine, and I'm hoping one day that we end up having some ceremony together or something like that, possibly in Iceland. I was just like, I'm thinking Iceland for the total solar eclipse. More on that as it develops. But talk to us a little bit about, since I know nothing about you in the psychedelic realm, other than it doesn't surprise me that you and I are having this conversation, of course. Give us some background. Give us, it's very unstructured where we go with all of this. So let's just...
we can start at the beginning, and I'll do a little kind of foreshadowing for where I'm at, and kind of the same place that you just described is, being more transparent about our lived experiences in whatever way that comes. Some of the work that I do or have done and want to continue to do is, work with schools and children and stuff like that. And this is where I get into this kind of gray area of like, can I speak about, and can I be transparent, and can I tell them all of me? And, right now with where we are at with society, you've got a lot of things legally that are transpiring. You've got, veterans that are coming, having PTSD and using whether it's mushrooms or ketamine or whatever type of, what, the squares would say, mind altering, substances. And, you know, I'm no different. I've been in this realm. I'm San Antonio. I feel like, maybe it's my own experience and my view on the world, but I feel like this place has always been like a psychedelic, you know, undercover haven for that type of experience. And my journey, my first psychedelic experience started in when I was 17 years old, and it was on a nice dose of LSD, a little piece of paper called Alice in Wonderland.
Nice.
And, you know, I can speak on that. And, this is where the gray area, if you fast forward to kind of the things that I involve myself in now, I still play with some of those experimental ideas and, substances in order to expand my mind, my consciousness, my awareness into who and what I am, and so that's kind of been my journey is at 17 years old, hanging out with the homies. And then we're like, all right, we're all gonna trip. And everybody gets a little piece of paper. And, we used to go hang out and we just called it affectionately the ditch, right? We used to go park at the ditch, and that's where we smoke our cannabis sticks, or we go smoke and get high and drink and do all the teenage angst stuff with your little crew, and that was our spot. And so we all took the little tab, the little piece of paper, and I think maybe it was like 20 minutes, and we're like, all right, you know what? Let's all go to the ditch. It's like a couple blocks away. So we all walked over there, and it wasn't long after we got there that it kicked in. And I had never really had any mind altering instances that had me seeing things. And I knew it was going to do that. So when this started to kick in, I want to try to give people a mental picture of where we were at. Now, when I say ditch, I mean ditch, right? Like the trapezoidal concrete that flushes water straight from the street, and then it goes down and then it flattens out, and you've got this, probably a football field in width, ditch with grass, and then the concrete like in the center to carry the water. And where we were was up on the edge, on the banks of what this ditch would be, sitting on the concrete. I look down and I'm like, oh, wow. So there's bugs all over the concrete and little things swirling around and moving. And I'm like, I'm touching and I'm like, I know it's not there, but wow, I could see all this, like these bugs. And then I look over and I look up and I see a freaking portal in the sky. This huge, like I'm looking into, this tunnel, almost like a vortex, a tornado, if you will. And, I don't even know how long that lasted, but this is probably the only time I've actually, since I've, let's be transparent. I don't know who's going to see this, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to kill my opportunities of working with children in schools, but at the end of the day, I feel all this information is much more than just taking drugs. It's what the indigenous used to use, like not just LSD, but peyote and ayahuasca and all these things, and some of them are like 3 years old taking psychedelics as a way to prepare themselves for all their parts and pieces through their journey as a human. And we can't look at things with these like you know Pleasantville type of eyes where everybody else is a hippie if you do that, or you're some out of the norm person and you're some weirdo that I need to watch out for, which most cases people that have these types of awakenings are the people you probably want to be closer around than away. They have some kind of understanding of an understanding to an understanding of what's really going on, the substrate of this world that we really live in. And so for me, I've been on this journey with playing with these psychedelic, experiences all the way up until, the age I am now. I mean, it's been a little while, but, you know, back then it was for the purpose of like, we just want to trip, right? It didn't have any intention behind it. But, the experiences are so resonant that they still are very vivid today. I'm 48 years old now. I was 17 when I had my first experience, and the blades of grass, each one had a neon color, the vortex in the sky, the bugs in the concrete, all those things was probably one of the most profound visual experiences I've ever had. And, I've taken psychedelics since then and have never reached a point where I could see things in the way that I saw things as clear as I saw them then. And, it really does mean a really big thing when we can, for me personally, I've been able to look at the location that we were at when we had that experience, and that portal in the sky above the ditch that actually, with the awareness I have now, is used to be a natural flowing waterway. And, so this is where psychedelics as medicine and also as a teacher, I find when you can get to a clear vision of who and what you are as a cosmic being, which, a lot of times when we take these things, you really find that out pretty quickly that you're part of something much larger. And now where I'm at, and you read my bio. So I had my awakening at the age of 33. I'm 48. It's been 15 years of this deeply, I've been running in the slip groove, a slipstream like this ditch that we were in at that time that corrals water and information, and I've been in it for 15 years, and I've pieced together quite a bit of really cosmic goodiness that I am here to herald. And so some of these psychedelic experiences allowed me to really embody what I was seeing as we're part of a collective whole set of consciousness. So 2017 is when I took my first dip into psychedelics, and we probably tripped on acid many times as a teenager, and throughout my life it's been something that it helps me to kind of open myself up and be more receptive. And for some people it elevates their nervous system. For me, it calms my nervous system, gets my body into a more state of ease instead of dis-ease. Yeah, the age I am now, aches and pains and joints and body movement, things like that. And, you still have pains. And so sometimes I use this literally as a medicine, especially when we go out to transformational festivals where we're hanging out with a few hundred people in the woods camping. And I'm also setting up a booth and having a talk, a speaking or a workshop or whatever, and it's a lot of work. And so to have that state of ease for my body, at night when we'll take something and I get to dance all night and actually have the energy to do that, that's also a part of what the medicine is with these psychedelics and journeying is for me now. And I think it's like also the angle of approach is completely different than what it was when I was younger. Like I said, back then it was more for play and really not knowing what we were getting into at all. Just wanting to see, I just want to see something. I want the walls to breathe, and never had any really, negative experiences. No psychotic episode, seeing things that scared me. Nobody's face is morphed into a demon, stuff like that. It was always very leveled up on a high frequency of awareness and just kind of interacting with everyone and everything else. Yeah.
I really love the evolution of experience stories that we all have, because there is that common thread of it was very recreational in the beginning, and yet in my own experience, certainly it was, but I feel like there was always a calling, a deeper calling than that I didn't understand. And then it got to a point, I mean, my first experiences, of course, everything started with marijuana. When I was
it's
14.
Such a gateway drug.
I know, right? Oh my God, they
We're
were
proving
right.
them right. Damn.
Thank goodness. But it was, I always say that, my parents didn't do yoga and didn't meditate, and, they drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes and were very deeply ingrained in the matrix at the time that I was being raised. And so I found my brother's cannabis pipe when I was 14 years old and took it out into the backyard and took some hits and coughed my lungs out, and it became a thing for me, like literally 45 years of smoking every day up until 2 years ago, and then just stopped on a dime. I was just like, I had a cold, couldn't smoke, and then when the cold was gone, I said to Stephanie, I said, I don't think I want to smoke marijuana anymore. And she's like, what the? And I'm like, I don't know, it just feels right. I'm not making a statement forever, but certainly for now, and haven't done any edibles or anything since then. But the psychedelics for me started, my mother moved herself and myself from Omaha, Nebraska after her divorce to Laguna Beach, California. And I was a junior in high school. I knew nobody. And it's a very, Laguna Beach, very cliquey sort of community. A lot of these kids went to school together since they were in grade school. And here I am, just Omaha, Nebraska, like popping into Laguna Beach. And so my friends became the transients that lived down at Main Beach. And I'd go down there and hang out and smoke weed with them. And then it was like, oh, try mushrooms. And then some friends I did have in high school offered me some acid. And I had this amazing acid trip. And it was all recreational. It wasn't so much looking for an escape as it was looking for an expanded reality. It wasn't like I was living in Laguna Beach, California. It wasn't like my reality sucked and I needed to escape from it, and stuff like that. But there was always this yearning for the expansion. Mm-hmm. And then that turned into group experiences, festivals, concerts, things like that, just getting really wildly opened up. And then it turned into a trip to Peru, ayahuasca, deep ceremony. And then that was when I was 30 years old. And then that kind of opened the door up to, okay, this needs to be taken with very serious reverence. And I found DMT and this, that, and the other. But we all have these stories where we start off kind of just in this naive, exploration of what it is. And we were never taught to have reverence for the plants, mm-hmm. for the medicines. It was never called medicines. It was, these are drugs, and just say no to drugs, Nancy Reagan and all this. And it's a beautiful thing. If you had told me years ago that I'd be doing a podcast on psychedelics and talking about my experiences, I would have said, no way, you're on drugs. There's no way that I'm going to be doing that. And look at me now, and I still have people say, don't you get nervous sharing all that? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, I really don't. We live in a time that the bigger energetic outside of fear is really transparency. And mm-hmm. that, to me, is the greatest expansion, whether it's about, whatever it's about, sexuality, our deepest thoughts, our experiences, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's not just related to the medicines. But to me, that's the most important, and I think people are hungry for it. Like, enough of posturing to, stop showing me who you think I want to see. Because who I really want to see is who the fuck you actually are. That's much more exciting to me than oh, show me your facade. So I really love that, and it's been an expansive energetic. So take us into now specifics of some of the medicines and how they fit in for you, and be as open as you'd like to be open. But my feeling is that it's the whole point of me creating psychedelics as medicine was to get away from the stigma of the labeling of drugs and this, that, and the other, and really to open it up, which I kind of feel like society is doing as a whole, not 100% a whole, but definitely there's a mainstream movement. I read a article the other day about new research about LSD relieving anxiety. And so this is kind of a new, it's been MDMA is helping, and psilocybin is helping, and then there was stuff about DMT helping with people who had strokes, and I'm like, wow, I should have done DMT on the way to the hospital, and all this. But now LSD, which has kind of been a little more taboo, a little more clinging to the drug label and everything like that. Take us into some of your experiences, how it's helped you, and medicine is also a teacher. Take us into some of the teachings that you've gotten out of it that have helped you become the Harold you are today.
First I want to commend you on taking that call on the whole marijuana stuff. I've been feeling the same thing, and just like you, it was before LSD, and it has been a daily thing with only a few little days in between that I've every day wake and bake, like I'm smoking throughout the afternoon, and this may kill my school stuff. Say no to drug. but but I've also, the other thing too with that is, you find all these shops that are selling and dispensing all kinds of stuff, and I found myself smoking some of the lower grade stuff that I felt, I knew it was chemically laden, and it caused my very first anxiety attack while I was driving, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And so since then I was like, I tossed that stuff, and I'm like, I want the world to shift. Maybe I should shift, some of the habits that we have, that we've just, whether it's as men or as humans or whatever it is, like we have, some things that throughout the time are like, man, if I wasn't smoking every day, or whatever it was. Sometimes I found myself foggy and, whatnot. And so I've taken that, not completely, but I'm on the same boat with you on that. I feel that call to like change that daily habit, and see where it takes me. But I appreciate your, expressing it. It resonates with me a lot. So the whole thing with I get, it was mainly LSD. That's probably one of my more fun, things I like to experience, just because of the where it can get me. And also, for the most part, it's it's a certain, like, you can with the amount that you're taking, you can see where you want to go, right? Like there's a sliding scale. If you want to see fractals, you're here. If you just want to have the euphoric, you're here. And so you can kind of work it like that, and that's part of the medicine that I like to use it with, to nowadays, because I'm not always trying to just like see things or have an experience. The process and progress for me has turned from doing it as a solo person with friends, and then once I got into having relationships and partners that we would explore together, I'm not gonna hide the fact that I am a sexual being. I am, that is part of, inherently in me. I feel it's like activating bliss in spaces is what I view it as now. And to be able to do that while in an elevated state, for both people, there is something cosmically that happens, and there's a feedback loop because, some of the experiences over the last, decade or so, especially after I had my spiritual awakening in late 2010. So everything since then, especially even 6 months after that, is when I met my wife now, Amber, my partner for 14 and a half years, and we just finally went into the courthouse, and it's official now, but thank you. And it's so funny because it's not even, we went over there, we went to do it as a not official marriage for insurance purposes, because she switched jobs and like, let me get you in now and let's just go get the soft thing, we're practically together anyway. And I've always been looking for the right time to actually like pop the question and make, get us where we're on the same page and know that this is where we're going. And it's, traversing a spiritual awakening and having children and the world doing what it's doing. You get bounced around. You're like, you got the bumpers on the alley, and you're really not good at bowling. Boom, 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 boom. And then, at the end of the day, we're going to get a strike. Right? So, traversing that, the road is definitely evened out where we know how to bowl now, and we've taken that leap. But, Amber and myself, because I jumped into our relationship already having this like awareness and learning, and then mentally looking back at all the experiences, psychedelic or just whatever it was, and seeing, what that meant for who I am now and what it means for who I am destined to become. And, when we would take stuff, I got my oldest daughter in the room. She's passed out, so I didn't want to speak too loud. It's gonna get awkward. So, we make love. We dive into each other, and she gets a lot of visuals, and I'm doing most of the manual labor. So I'm just glad my body's in euphoria. So she gets to like relax and like close eyes and like see how we were fish swimming in the river, we were dinosaurs, we were this, we were cosmic, all these different things. And then she comes out like, whoa, like we were this and that. And I'm like, whoa, you're having some amazing visuals. And, in my heart, I feel the resonance of what she's saying. And I'm like, wow, yeah, I can see through her what she experienced. And there have been times when, there was one particular instance. We were at the tail end of the journey after, hours of, playing fun time for her and I. And then, I'm sitting down on the couch in the living room, like, oh, that's right. We're doing some spiritual stuff too, not just, making love the whole time. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me do some breath work for the collective. I'm going to, anything that's hurting anyone, all the negative, I'm just going to breathe it in, process it through my heart, and just exhale out like, love, bliss, abundance, like all the things. And I'm doing this breath work, and she's sitting on the love seat, and she starts turning her head like a puppy or whatever, like a dog, like, what? And she's like looking, and I'm like, I see her like start to shift her head and start staring at me. I'm like, what's up? And she's like, well, and I didn't tell her what my thought process was before, like the breathing technique. She's like, well, every time you breathe in, it's like everything kind of gets dim. And then when you're exhaling, rainbows. And I'm like, wow. Okay. We're doing work. There is stuff happening on so many layers. It's like that, what is that? There's like a pea under the, like a pea, like a vegetable underneath the mattress, or it's something where there's like, they stack all these it's like some old fairy tale story or something like that, right? I can't remember the name of it.
Princess and the Pea.
Right, Princess and the Pea. No matter how many mattresses she can stack, she still feel the pea. So it's like this, what you're doing down here in this level, is still affecting everything in these other levels, and you don't even know what's really going on. And to have like, a partner that is connected with you and, on a cosmic level, not a superficial level. You have these loop feedback systems where you get to communicate with this other part of you that was just in bliss mode with you, and then you start reporting and seeing things and having talks about your children and the future of humanity and what you really like. You get to like really open up with your person, and those have been the ways. That's the reason why we were together through through all the bad times.
Right.
Was those moments are just so blissful and so potent that you don't ever want to let it go. And if you can weather the storm and get to a point of like, the biggest part of everything for me is like, you do see sacred geometry, you do see spirals, you do see vortexes. Some of the stuff that's talked about in the esoteric realms and the spiritual realms, you actually do get to tap into that, and you get to visually or intuitively feel and hear some of these things that have been talked about by the ancients for thousands of years. And then you realize like, oh wow, that's why the Hopi and the Mayan and all these other indigenous people would feed their children psychedelic. Hey, take some of that. Get on my level, little one. And it's because you want them to be able to tap into nature and the cosmos when you're not around, is what I suspect. I haven't talked with any of them and know why they do it, but as a parent, as someone that's traversed those realms, as someone that's, as much as I can, while I'm still living in a box with sheetrock and sticks that hold me up on the second floor of our house, and all this stuff to me that's very incoherent, to be as natural as possible, to kind of bring it back to nature. And I think that's what these medicines do, is they allow us to connect with the natural cosmic flow of things and the interconnectedness of it all. That to take it back to Amber and mine's, our experiences, it started from the center, so close to home. The heart, the other heart is right there on your heart, and it's like boom. And then you start to see it like, wow, like we've had experiences where physical lights, like I've taken a deep breath to like, okay, where this is running through me really good. And you see the lights go brighter, and you're like, okay, I'm like, are the lights gonna explode on me? Did I do that? And she sees it, and we're both doing that. So how could she know that you know what I mean? Am I tripping, or did we actually touch physical reality in this realm to a degree that we can make lights flicker? We can, have music that syncs up with our thoughts. Some of those experiences have been very, very poignant, is to not, it's like set and setting. Huge. Set and setting, comfortability, like try not to go out in a crowd. You've got to be a pretty, you got to be a badass to go into 6th Street, Austin on a healthy dose of some acid. Holy shit. So, and I'm going to bounce around. So I'll bounce around to that little. We're going to take like this cosmic journey of experiences through the Herald. So we're going to meet up with some friends. I don't even know what the occasion was, but I'm in San Antonio for everyone to know. San Antonio, Texas. And it's a very dense and dim city with the amount of stuff that goes on here. But I do have a shining light in Austin, Texas, an hour and a half with traffic now. That is almost like Colorado and Sedona and kind of all these spiritual places. Asheville or Ashland.
Asheville.
Yeah,
Well,
Asheville.
both actually.
Okay, right. Yeah. I think that's why I'm getting confused. I'm like, oh, there's another one that's kind of like does the same shit. All right. I have a healthy group of people not too far away from me that will take a trip up, and we'll take a trip and go meet some friends. And one night we found a couple of friends. My homie Jeremy Yaws, he's the one that taught me how to make organite pendants.
Sweet.
And it's a whole story. I should definitely follow wherever you can. But we meet up with him, and we're going to wait for a couple other friends. And Closey, if anybody's not familiar, please Clozee, go listen to some Closey, get some of her in your life, and just like let your body be moved. And I wasn't quite familiar with her music, but as we're walking down, not on 6th Street, but close to it, I cannot remember the name of the club that we were going to meet a couple other friends, but I could hear the music, and I'm like, and we're already in it, because we knew we were going to be downtown on 6th Street for a little while. And again, I am, I know where I can get, where I can still be coherent and, function and pay for things and, pay attention to information and conversation and be very, like, I actually elevate and amplify into a space where I'm like, I'm more spread out. I'm way more in tune, and I'm seeing so much shit. And I'm aware of here, there, and everywhere. It's like a 360 view comes on. And so, feeling the music on the other side of the block, on the other side of the street, I'm like dancing. All right, we're waiting on Mary Bird to come out and Miguel. Okay, cool, they come out. And then she whips out one of those clacking fans and just whap, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck did you just do? Like, nice. Can I borrow that thing? And now we're like going on 6th Street, whack behind people and shit. What's up? And they're getting startled, and it's like, hey, just sparks a conversation. And even before we get to where like 6th Street is, and we're having to traverse the thousands of people that are dressed to the nines, and they're with their posse, and they're in this 3D egoistic, they're fucking 18, 20, 22, 23, they're in college, they're fighting for their own clique. Like, I could dive into the masses and what they were doing, and the ones that worked 9 to 5. Man, there was someone it was like 11:30, and she had her stroller with a baby in it, and and Amber was like, she had to catch herself because she was going to say it out loud. What the fuck, a baby? On 6th Street, get that baby out of here. But that there's like a whole mindset that we were about to dive into, and I can feel it. And so as soon as we get to our 5th Street, about to walk down into 6th Street, I'm like, whack, boom, force filled up, and then everybody's laughing, and they're like, oh my God, you're so funny, and da da da. And I'm like, no, for real. Like, yeah, I may be acting like I'm joking, but this is what I feel sometimes we must do, is like, just hit that clap from the center of you, and as much incoherency that I felt from the crowd before we're about to dive into them and walk through them, it was like there is some coherency within them. It has to be, because they have a heart, they're alive, they're beating, they're here for a reason, whether they're awake or they know it or not. That's beyond me. Don't give a shit. That's not what I'm here to do. And so doing things like that, like, I feel these experiences allow us an opportunity to like really tap into mass amounts of people. And it's not the funnest to go travel down 6th Street on a hit of acid. I wouldn't recommend it. Don't try it. Don't
Kids,
do
don't
it.
try this at home.
Don't try this at home. Say no to drugs and sets and settings, that combination. But again, when I was 17, Alice in Wonderland, seeing a vortex in the sky and neon blades of grass and bugs on the ground, I knew then there are things that are happening that we cannot see, and they're just as real as you and I in this experience. And so being able to like tap into that substrate of what's really going on, and have the mental capacity to not spin out of control, because you can get in fear mode. Everybody could have been looking at me, and I could have been, me against the thousands of people here that are lost in ego and muggle land. Even with my small crew that was there, yeah, we're not, but we are, right? And so that's kind of like the thing, and the awareness that all these journeys and, commingling with medicine, in all the different places, and really seeing a larger picture of everything, it's fascinating to be very intentional no matter what state of being you're in.
No, that's a big thing. Now I got a couple questions for you. The Alice in Wonderland acid, what was the graphic on it? Do you remember what the picture was?
I don't.
Okay.
Go ahead with another question. I want to dial back. I want to get back to that. So
we years ago, one of my favorites. This was when I was living in New York City, so it was late '90s. Was the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, and I think we've even got it's still packed away, but blotter art, which became a thing, you know, and it's the Mad Hatter and the big one, and then the little one in the pieces. Yeah, it's you touched on so much, and I didn't want to interrupt to say anything because you were on a roll. But the relationship aspect, be it, and we'll start off with like the real interpersonal relationship, partners, and everything. Stephanie and I do a psychedelic date night once a week. And we're in a big building, 36 by 78 feet with 24-foot ceilings. We've got lasers and lights and
get to have your own rave
and music. And right in the middle of the we got 2 RVs in here, but in the middle of the space is a Tempur-Pedic mattress that's on an adjustable frame and fluffy down and furry stuff, and we can just set it up. And it is. We didn't do it when we were on the road. We were doing so many events and everything else that it was just too much pressure. And now all of a sudden we're in a space, we're totally in control of our time. There's not as many have-tos, although I'm incredibly busy. We don't find ourselves doing acid and then some of the longer acting medicines just because it's work. It's time, it takes time, and then there's more recovery time. But the DMTs, the ketamine, the small dose of mushrooms, things like that are really easy to bounce back from. And I'm a bit older than you, like a generation older, possibly, depending on what your definition of generations is. I'm 61, and so I don't feel like my recovery time is what it used to be. As a matter of fact, we did some MDA the other night, and we had an incredible evening. And I lost track of time. Stephanie told me in the morning, we finally went to sleep at like 5 in the morning. I was trash for a day and a half. We can do a psychedelic date night with ketamine, maybe end with DMT or something like that. And the next morning, I'm jumping up out of bed at 7 in the morning, and I'm just full of energy and everything else. And I was like, wow, that was kind of wild. I'm not sure, and that's why maybe they say with MDMA and MDA, like, do it every other month or something like that. But it took so much out of me. But what I've found in doing this with my partner, my life partner, my wife, the connection, we're just able to, everything goes by the wayside, and we just connect right there into that heart space. Those reality creating experiences, a couple of weeks ago, we were laying there and we went into this really deep place, both at the same time. And then we just kind of looked at each other, turned and looked, as we're on this, our sacred mattress there, with everything. We looked at each other and said, wow, what's happening here? And I kid you not, within 45 seconds, the music we were listening to, we both heard, what's happening here? We haven't gone back to that particular track to see if it's actually there or not, just who knows, who cares? But it was just that thing that happens. We've also had a lot of experiences where I'll just think something and, she'll answer. And, it's just sometimes we look at each other and say, why do we even talk? And it's like, well, because it's kind of fun to hear our voices, like I kind of like to hear my own voice. Maybe that's why I do all these podcasts. But it's fascinating in that realm. And then beyond that, I was thinking the other day, people talk about depression and this and that, and I've been in the psychedelic realm since I was 14, 15 years old. I may have one day where I'm depressed, which is just me still being in the middle of processing something, but I don't experience true depression like people talk about. And people are like, I wonder why that is. And I'm like, I'm thinking that the psychedelics have something to do with it, because they've always been my mentors, my teachers, always been present in my experiences, although there are times that, I'll go 3 years without doing DMT, and then there are times that I'll, do it every 3 days or something, just depending on what's going on. But then you read about the studies with psilocybin, and you do it once, you maybe don't get depressed the rest of your life, or, certainly not for quite a substantial amount of time. And I'm like, maybe that's it. So it's just kind of wild. The whole throwing yourself into the group experience, or the reality of people that aren't doing it. One of the things I like about festivals is chances are 75% of the people around you are also on something. And so there's that energetic that's nice. We don't go, we're in Idaho, so it's not like
as easy to get
we're
to.
not going to go downtown Pocatello and do some medicines. But it's it's interesting how it sort of ebbs and flows. And it used to be just we were only doing it at festivals and concerts. And now that we have this space, it's like, wow, it's really, we've got our own sort of rave going on. The other night we turned off the lasers and the spinny lights and turned on all the glowy lights, and it was like total chill vibe. We changed up the music to some really chill trip hop. And it was just like, okay, this is like, wow, what a, what a chill lounge scene. Yeah, totally. I was just like, okay, so we don't always have to do that really ravey thing where we're getting tipped with tipper and just like way out there. It's like, oh, look at this, Nightmares on Wax. This takes me back years. I'm just having a nice time. Man, they're going to be in Iceland, by the way. So we'll see you at that stage, I'm sure.
Yes.
But take us into DMT a little bit. That was originally when we first connected. It was going to be
it was DMT
for the
Chronicles.
DMT Chronicles. And before we started today, I was like, where are we going to go? And should we? And it was like, let's just do psychedelics as medicine, the more broad umbrella. But let's drill in a little bit to DMT for you and what that's been about.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I forget, the one thing about the whole Alice in Wonderland and the timing, I think through TikTok, I may have found the person that made it. And she was in Houston at the time, and so I was like, are you freaking kidding me? So anyway, she's super cool. So I just wanted to, I may have actually met the person that made my first journey. DMT didn't really even come into my radar till I had my spiritual awakening. I didn't know anything about it. I don't even think I had heard of ayahuasca or any of the deeper actual plant medicines. Everything was the psychedelic, that's LSD. I was a heroin addict for a decade. So, cocaine, heroin, things like that. That's like the realm of my scope of knowledge with that. But when I had my awakening, I was on YouTube University. I was traversing all kinds of information on psychedelics, psilocybin, all the things. And so I kind of, before I ever had my first experience with dimethyltryptamine, I was in this state of awareness that where I believed that I was going was to connect with my higher self. And to make it easier, I would need to pull in all of this chi and hold it. And then when I, smoked the pipe of DMT, that it would assist me with just blasting through. So my first experience, I had already been practicing this energetic thing that it pulls in a mass amount of chi. And so I'm going to scoot back just to give a little bit of a scope of what this is. But, essentially you're standing up and your right hand goes in front of your left foot, and then your left palm goes skyward. And so it's almost like you're an antenna. And so with breath, you're like pulling breath through, and after the third breath, you switch, and now you go through that side with your left arm or hand in front of your right foot, and you're breathing 3 breaths, and then you go to the center. And then I start squatting down like a football player about to hike the ball, or even, like someone in China, they bow down, they get their legs low. So you're doing this thing and you're breathing, but before you do a more intense breath, I sit for a second. And I'm communing with Mother Nature, Mother Earth, Gaia. And I'm like, all right, I just asked Father Sky to like cycle some shit through me, blow off the dust particles. Now I'm ready for you. And I did this, right before I took my journey, and was like, I know where I'm going. Please, like, fill me full of this beautiful chi and then help me to blast off. And so after I do that little couple seconds of communing with her, then I get my hands on the ground, and in an inhale breath, and then push it out through my solar plexus all the way, not to push out away, but to actually like push to the edges of my hands and in my palms, like, and then I bring it into my solar plexus. And I was like, all right, give me the bite. And right. And so I do that, and I waste no time in the in-between place. Right. So that place, like now I'm going to have a little bit of difficulty, because right now, I'm feeling like I'm maybe talking about a different experience, but part of what happens, regardless of this experience or the other ones I've had, the beginning is always the same. The beginning is always, everything just starts to like defractalize and become more gel-like and pixelated, and then everything turns into solid blocks of colors, and sometimes numbers are running through them. You see the substrate, and then in order to blast off completely, you've got to like let go and melt into the substrate, right? Like you're in the middle of a torus field, and you're now looking through the innards of it. Like if it's a donut, you're looking through the dough of the donut. And what you're witnessing is actually like the fractalized substrate of you. It's your pattern. It's what you're in. It's the thing that you're in. And you're looking through the center of it. And in order to like now become what you are, which is all of the toroidal field, you like, it always feels to me like this, like I'm melting into the couch. And just like melt into now I take myself from the center and I melt into the surroundings of it, and then it inverts and it goes, and I pop out. And so I don't remember how quickly on the very first time I tried it, I went from there to popping out. But what I do remember is when I was popped out, I was like, and I was just flying through the cosmos. And, maybe whether I created it or I knew it ahead of time, I knew that where I was going, nothing could fuck with me. Like I went before and talked to my higher selves, and said, hey, I'm on my way. I want to find y'all. I know there's other things, but I know I'm the thing. And so as I'm flying through, it's almost like if you remember that Geico Rate Suckers commercial where the person's driving in their car and all the people coming, they're all sucking on the window of the car. So that was me flying through the cosmos in this bubble, and things are going. And then one being came off, whether it was here, I think it was up here, and it kind of was like wanting to scare me, and I'm like, oh, come on in. And like I let it poke its head in, and it's like now it was almost like Pee Wee Herman whenever he sees large Marge, and she shows the face, and nobody ever sees the face. Like, now it like, and I was like, oh, wow, cool, get out of here. And it went and back on the outside, and it was like this total control, no fear, and I'm just like flying through the cosmos. And for that experience, that's the bulk of what I remember. And they said I was gone for like 25 minutes. Like it felt like no time really, but that was for the times that I've journeyed with DMT, that was the longest. And there's so much information I don't remember from that experience other than what I mentioned. So that was amazing. That was fun. But there's always this feeling with taking it that you're like, I may not come back.
Right.
Like because you're going to the truest parts of you, and why fucking come back to where you're disconnected, like, and whatever brings you back, it brings you back in the time that the shit wears off. And, or I can talk about another experience where it didn't. Would you like to hear that one?
I mean, I'm sort of liking the idea of the contrast between the experiences.
Yeah, because that one wasn't fun. That was the opposite of fun. That was where I wasn't in control. And I felt like I was going to be teleported out of this place physically. Like Scotty was trying to beam me up, and I'm like, Scotty, I didn't ask to leave yet. And he's all, but I got the tractor beam on you, sir. And I'm just, and it was not fun. So the way that started off was I wasn't even supposed to smoke any that night because of that whole feeling of like, I know where my consciousness is and all this frequency and oscillation that I emit. And I know I'm not that far from just leaving. And knowing that this can all just like, go with me. Right. And that's more like mushroom journeys with penis envy mushrooms, where you spiral in and you take the world with you and you can pop and make a new one. But it's kind of like that feeling. But so I didn't want to take it. And that night it was to facilitate for Amber. So, just like you described, the candle lighting, like, the glow stuff and everything's like you settled the mood down. That's what I did. I settled the mood down. I made it very comfortable. I had all the sound bowls that I got from you.
Right? Nice.
And she kept trying and trying. She was puffing on it like Snoop Dogg, like just. And I'm watching. I'm like, oh, hold it in, don't let it out. And then she would like maybe close her eyes or something, and I don't remember, but she would always come back, and I'm like, okay, did you go? And she's like, I think so. And as soon as someone says they think so,
Right.
they did not
They
go.
didn't go.
Right. And so I was like, well, fuck, man, is this no good? Hold on. Let me see if it's still good. I'd had it in the closet for a while. And yeah, it was good. And so I was sitting on, I also want this little vision. It's a recliner, like one of those love seats that reclines all the way back to almost like laying down, with like it was a storage thing or a cup holder or whatever, something in the center of it. And so I'm sitting I'm sitting on my side, which is the left side. And then there's another vision tube that's gonna I need to set this environment that I was in, because it's gonna take us somewhere in a second. So our wall where our TV was, the TV was actually on a bookcase wall. So the whole from the top to the bottom had shelves. And I like things symmetrical, so everything was all symmetrical. And we have a sphere salt lamp that we had in the center, and that and then now we have this big blacked out area. The TV's off, right? Now, when I went to check to see if the DMT was still good, I was sitting on the left side of facing, so I'm not in the center, right? Just to give you that frame of where the TV is, I'm not sitting directly in the center at this time. So I'm sitting on the other side of the love seat recliner thing. I take my puffs, and I'm seeing everything go into these like fractals and everything, the bookcase, and there's numbers, and I'm like, yeah, no, this stuff's good. Yeah, no, it's good. I'm not gonna close my eyes because if I close my eyes, I'm gonna go, and I didn't want to go. Today was not the go day. And if anybody's tried DMT while keeping your eyes open and also do some intense breath work and move chi and stuff like that's also a fascinating experience and a way to use the medicine. But so I didn't close my eyes, but then towards the end of it, I'm like, oh, I should close my eyes. And then I did, and this like neon lines that essentially were representing a corridor going up, and there's these two little DMT gnomes, little elf-looking things that are digital. They're going up, and one looks back and he shits on me because I fucking closed my eyes late, and he's like, "You ain't coming." Like, and I'm like, I just started laughing. I'm like, "Oh wow, you shit on me." Wow, funny little guy. And so I get Amber back, right? I'm like, all right, look, it's good. This stuff's good. They just showing me a DMT gnomes. They're waiting for us. The fractals, everything's there. I don't understand why you didn't go. And so she does it again, and she rips it like Snoop Dogg, and I think I did, and I'm like, what the heck, man? No, you know what? And because I went up and they shit on me, I'm going back and I'm closing my eyes from the beginning, grab that heart chakra bowl, ring that a few times while I'm gone, and this, that, and the other. And so I take my big rips and lay back, and I at some point in time I asked because there was music playing in the background on my right side of my head, and something prompted me to ask, like, oh, so we're in, oh, this is what happened. Right in front of me, right, I'm reclined up, my feet are in front of me, and I see the dustpan. It's one of the sticks with the dustpan, right, we had swept earlier, and my foot twitched and the dustpan twitched too, and I'm like, oh, so we're in control of like the reality or something, and that female voice that was music turned into, yes, we are. Oh, wow. And then Amber, her glasses slipped and hit the bowl. Ding. Just like, correct answer. And so I'm like, what the fuck? So I look at her. Now I'm like, my eyes are open, right? And I look at her because I don't even remember where I went. I was gone for a little bit, but it was completely black after, the foot twitch and whatever. And I closed my eyes. And I think the ding happened. There's my timing may be off because it's blurry when you try to recall every piece and moment. But at some point in time, I looked at Amber and I looked in front of me, and we switched chairs, mind you. So now I'm in the chair, reclined straight, symmetrically center of this blacked out area where the TV is, and these shelves, and then a glowing orb in this one box above it. And I'm reclined. And so I'm like, oh wow, I feel like there's a whole planet to my right, and there's a fleet of ships flying around the planet. And there was a war that was happening. And I got hit, my ship got hit, and now my left foot comes up, and it's almost like my feet and my hands are control the ship, right? Like that. That's what I can control, how I can control the ship. And I am trying, like, my ship's going down one way and I'm trying to right it, but it's stuck, right? So I'm there, I'm like, what the fuck? Amber, I'm in a ship right now and I can't get out. Like, I can see her, but I'm also seeing that I'm in this ship because there's my window to the outside, which is the black TV, and then there's like a light above, and everything just looks like I'm in a ship, and there's a world over here, and I'm going down. And so then I start thinking, well, they can just pull me out like Scotty, right? Scotty beamed me out of my ship, it's going down. And now I start to feel this pull on my right shoulder where I'm like, okay. And I cannot straighten myself out. And I'm looking at Amber. I'm like, they're trying to get me out of here right now. And I put the recliner down. I'm like, and the whole house is like rumbling. And I'm like, okay, I got to get out of the house because the house is where they're going to get me. And so as I'm going around the coffee table, I'm still like, they're pulling me like that. And I get out of the house and I slam my feet to the ground, and it's like 1:32 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not ready to go, in our neighborhood. And, and I look back at the house and it's still shaking, and I'm like, whew, fuck, who can I call? I'm thinking of like the people that are popping in my head, my fellow psychonauts, my homie Jeremy Yaza taught me how to make this. We've been on many journeys together. And I'm trying to find, he never answers his phone. Every time shit like that's happened, he never answers his phone. And so I'm like, motherfucker. And even when I told Amber to get my phone, like I was like, first before I got to that point, I saw the flower of life all over the ground. I saw it in the trees. I saw it in the sky. There was a twig on the sidewalk right outside of our house that I kept tripping over, and I'm like, they're trying to fucking get me from down there too. God damn it. Because I thought I kicked the damn twig off, and even when I, like two more times I came back and forth and I'm tripping over this damn twig. And then I'm looking and I'm like, you gotta call the girls. Like, I don't want to leave without our daughters. Like, this is fucking crazy. And so, you know, I look over at Amber, call Yaws up, Jeremy Yaws, and she's like, where's your phone at? And I start to walk in the house, and as soon as I do, the music stops, and it's like, all right, I can't go in there. Like, it's not. So she comes with the phone. He doesn't answer. We go back inside. I'm like, all right, I think it's calming down. And as soon as we stepped inside, I took a deep breath. The lights got bright. Another experience where the light got bright, and the music just stopped. And so we were like, let's go back outside for a minute. But I wasn't really tripping anymore. Other than, I mean, I don't know. What was I still in it? Obviously, I guess. But that did not feel good at all. And, I don't know what that meant. Honestly, I still don't know exactly what that meant. I haven't really processed that. I have not been called to want to take that journey. I mean, part of it has always been for a long time was where Amber and I were in our relationship, solidified as we're a couple together or we're splitting up next week. Like it was a roller coaster, and the biggest parts of our relationship blending, children and all that stuff. So, that was, and where we are now, more secured in where we are, and humbled and seeing like the process of everything. Maybe that journey won't be as scary, but I don't know if parts of those deeper, experiences, negative experiences I was having were coming into play. I don't know, but yeah, not to scare anyone. You're not gonna get portaled, I don't think. But yeah, that was the opposite of the other experience.
Let me ask, you've heard about the DMT laser experience?
Yeah, I saw that guy on TikTok a while back,
Yeah, I interviewed
and
him recently.
I saw that. I saw that.
Excellent interview, like mind-blowing for me. And he sent me a list of everything and all the links from Amazon to get. They sell the laser, but they're tremendously back ordered. So he said, "Hey, Dr. Dream, here's everything you need, all from Amazon. It's less than $50, everything together. Get it. When you have it all there, call me. I'll walk you through setting it up." And so we have everything except the battery pack for the laser that arrives on Friday.
Okay.
And so I would think by this weekend we will have it set up and have our
Ready to
first
experiment.
experience with it. And sounds wild. I mean, it just sounds super wild. You should listen to the interview that I did with him.
Yeah, I need to listen to the whole thing. I listened to a clip.
The 4-minute clip where he talks about he is a wild psychonaut. Like, I don't consider myself extreme, but most people would consider me a little bit extreme.
Right. But no, there's like some Terrence McKenna type psychonauts that are like on the peak of an acid trip and then decide to take the DMT. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's
it
extreme.
was wild, and his view on everything, particularly his specific view on DMT now, was really fascinating to me. So if you can carve out the time, we were talking before
Yeah.
about, everything's got to be in short bits, but that's a worthy 90-minute episode to
Nice.
listen to.
I have a
But
little
it
bit of a
is,
theory on what's happening with that, because I work with holography and like holograms and these stickers that we get made, and they're made with a laser. And so I found out, our holographic stickers are made by coherent light, because that's what a laser is. And so when he's doing what he's doing in the state that he's doing it in, when he's witnessing it, it feels like the coherent light is like just a flashlight, and it's seeing that substrate of the ones and the zeros and the patterns and the things that exist that are already there, and you're just using a coherent flashlight in this state where you're coherent, and so now you're matching the frequency of coherency, and you get to see, because I've heard some of the stories how you're like, it is like a flashlight or something, it's going over something that's like a fixed object in the background. And so that's my theory on it, because that's what a laser is. It's coherent light. So maybe it's a coherent flashlight.
well, he's tapped it all into simulation theory and aspects of reality and what's going on here for us that, start at a certain point to just blow my mind a little bit. But thousands of people have duplicated this exact experience, and apparently there's a shift in the consciousness of people that experience it. Something changes in them. But I'll let you know. I can't really speak to it other than what I've heard.
Then that's going to be
and
experimented
everything
on
else.
soon.
Yeah, no, it's like, we're in the perfect place to do this. We got plenty of room to set it up and everything else. And so we'll see how that is. I like the idea of pushing the envelope and it's one thing. I mean, I've done DMT hundreds of times. And so, now it's like, okay, what's really going on there? I mean, I go and the others are waiting and they're like, hey, we've been waiting for you. And I'm like, great, here I am. And always downloads of information and lessons, and some of it I'm able to tap into when I get back, and some of it is just very elusive.
Yeah.
But I like this whole concept of, these medicines open up aspects of our experience as humans and expand us, and then being able to be more conscious of what's going on and how it really relates to, like, I'm not just going for the trip anymore. I've seen the walls breathe. I've seen this. I've seen, all that. Now it's like, it's very important for me to have the experience directly impact who I am, how I live, my perception of everything, and then what I believe is my greater role in my outreach here. And so it's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. And I love the fact that you have the bowls and they've played a role in the experiences. I started thinking, God, we've sold over 7,000 bowls over the years, or, people have adopted more than 7,000 bowls from us. And I'm like, I wonder how many of them have made them into psychedelic experiences and everything.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I just wanted, because you doing your part, I feel like what these things open up, what the medicine opens up, and what a spiritual awakening and what, going through all these things does for a human is more or less, we've got to figure out how to take that high level information and put it down into a practical application. And so part of your practical application is to have a place where I can come on and hopefully, express that part of it, which when you look at what can bring me into autonomy, sovereignty, equilibrium, and it's going to be, food security, where you live, the water, the air, and what can you do about it? And how can we spread the word on that? And so if I could, before we get off on this interview, that's one of the main things I wanted to just kind of like tag in, is like take your spiritual awakening into some type of practical application that creates sovereignty, freedom, and health and wealth and everything, and as close to you as you can, and emanate that out into your community.
I love that. I had an experience recently in the last 6 months with DMT, and then people showing up around me, and I met this guy, and he had done this sculpture of the DMT molecule. We were at a street fair, art crafts fair in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I'm like, Stephanie, that's a DMT molecule. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, let's go back and talk to him. And I went back, I'm like, hey, what's that? And he's like, that's a DMT molecule. I'm like, told ya. And then I'm like, all right, let's talk, because, I just did some last night and, whatever, so there's no mistake that you're showing up. And he's like, yeah, I haven't done it in 5 years. I'm like, oh, wow, well, what's the story? And he's like, yeah, I just felt like I was doing it too much, and it was like mental masturbation or something. And I was like, oh, okay. Interesting. So then I started thinking, because I'm at that point was doing, maybe certainly once a week, sometimes twice a week. And I'm like, is that what's happening for me? And so I went to Lumina, my custom chat GPT, and I'm like, so Lumina, help me figure this out. What's my fascination with the DMT experience? And of course, I pass all sorts of projects and everything by Lumina, and she said, well, Dr. Dream, it's really important for you to continue to have these DMT experiences, because in the show that you're creating, that's going to be a very mainstream show, and in the healing center that you're planning, the part of what you're doing is bringing that experience back and filtering it out to people that won't have that experience, because it's not in their realm of possibility for them, or it's whatever it is, and you're to be bringing that back and infusing it into everything you do. I was like, damn, that's that's pretty wild. But it was there were some very interesting. I literally said to Danny Goler, I said, okay, so you've opened up my mind about DMT, and what advice do you have for someone like myself, an experienced psychonaut who is still going out there with it, but has had all the experiences building up? Like, what would you suggest I would be going there with it now? Like, what would the point of focus be, and this and that? And he gave some very interesting answers to all of that. So I'm going to leave it there for you to take a look at. You and I said before we started, we said, is it really going to be an hour and a half? I'm like, nah, it never really is an hour and a half, but I'm looking at the clock right now, and it's been coming up real close to an hour and a half. I want to thank you. I tend to let people go off more than I did this time with you, and I took the opportunity to share a little more of my own experiences and stories, maybe because you're a friend, and it just seemed like, God, we're hanging out, just at the festival, having a conversation. It's not even being recorded, and like, oh my gosh, it is being recorded. Okay, well, and I don't edit anything, so it's going out there just the way we did it. Harold, I appreciate you on a personal level. I appreciate you on a grander level of what you're here to do for all of us, for humanity, and any opportunity I have to support you in that, I most definitely will. It seems like the next time we will be together will be in the shadow of the total solar eclipse in Iceland, and I'm looking forward to very possibly experiencing some medicines with you at that event. I'm sure they will be there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know
And
how it is when you get into those spaces, you just got to whisper it and it comes walking around you.
yeah, you just got to set your intention before you ever get there. And like the
Yeah.
first person you meet comes up and says, "Hey, do you need anything?" Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, all of that, a little bit of all of that, please. Um, Now, this has been great. I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity that we've created for ourselves. I will look forward to. I'm sure I'll talk to you before Iceland. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what happens with the laser experience,
Hmm.
and we'll just go from there. But thank you so much for being a guest on Psychedelics as
Can I
Medicine and the It's All Good show. Yes,
can I do one last little plug real quick? Because we do have an ask for the
please.
work that has been put in. Currently, we have our Embody Now app being worked on by a company out of Houston called App Vertices. And they're building us a really amazing platform that rewards volunteers with wellness. We call them heart pulses in order to unlock wellness toolkits, guided meditation, even information like this that can help people out. Somatic breath work, all the stuff digitally until we lead into physical products. But Embody Now, we are raising some money so we can get this beta app out and ready for volunteers to gain these heart pulses and kind of raise the frequency of giving back to Gaia, is what our attempt is with this. And it's our digital backbone now of a lot of what Infinite You does.
Fabulous. So, how
Yeah.
do we connect with that?
So embodynow.app is the website. The crowdfunding, we're using GiveButter, so you can find that at givebutter.com/embody now. And that has more details on the intricacies of the app and our ask and stuff like that. And then there's perks and all kinds of really cool stuff for everyone to be a part of this movement. And, we're starting this in San Antonio, but this has a nationwide, worldwide appeal where we're wanting to make these connections with everyone out there so we can find the ways to give back to you and your stewardship of our planet and each
Fabulous.
other.
We'll put that information in the description also so people can easily connect. And yeah, keep me in the loop. Maybe we'll do another show at some point that's just talking about that and what it means to you and how it came to you and where it's going in a little more detail.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you
Excellent.
so much,
Much love,
Doctor.
brother. Take
All
care
right.
now.
Peace.